Good morning to you. It is Wednesday, May 21st at 11:05 in the AM. It's been a little bit since we've talked, and I'll tell you why. I was on hiatus. Officially, I can tell you. I got a few things to talk about. Not a ton to talk about, but wanted to check in more than anything. Before I do that, let me thank the people that made my sweatshirt. Homefield Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Enter Boiled25. Get 15% off your first order. They got some cool IndyCar stuff right now. That's got a lot of my attention, if I'm being really honest right now. Purdue basketball, Purdue football is secondary to me during the month of May in Indy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about IndyCar. It's my segue into IndyCar later. When you're on campus, there's but one place to go. It's AJ's. Why do I love AJ's so much? Because the owners are great. Jake and Adam are awesome dudes. The service, nobody's nearly as good as the service that they have there. I've just traveled internationally. I'd say AJ's service is paramount to any place that I've been in the world in their service. And of course, their food is delicious too. Pub fare, delicious appetizers, burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's by the fire station. EatAJ's.com in case you want to check into them online. Also, just look for Adam on Twitter because he's awesome. Dude's great. All right, so let me talk about two things. It could be a true QuickCast because number one, I don't think anybody thought I was gonna stream today, so it might be a true QuickCast. We'll see. I'll tell you why I haven't seen you in a while. I went to France with my dad. It sounds like my voice is changing again because it's allergy season, always for me. But I went to France with my dad and one of his buddies from the service. We visited Normandy and went to Paris. Funny, my son is actually there now. We kind of high-fived and he went that way with Purdue's Mitch Daniels School of Business. Pretty neat trip for him. I never got to travel internationally when I was young because that same dad that I'm talking about I travel with, he was mean to me and he did not take me or pay for my trip. I didn't pay for LBD's trip to Paris either, if I'm being real honest. But this trip to Paris with my dad was awesome. The trip to Normandy was fantastic. If you've never been to Normandy, you should go. If you are a history buff, if you love what servicemen and women have done for you in your life, it's just an incredible place. Went to Normandy, went to Mont Saint Michel, went to Paris. I mean, jam-packed with fun stuff, cool stuff. But one thing I didn't have there because I chose to go cheap and not have my cell phone on, I didn't get a lot of news updates. I checked on my Wi-Fi in the evening, checked in with my family, that sort of thing. But honestly, I was really out of touch, really unplugged. And so I got back and checked in on what's been happening in Indy. I kept my own qualifications, if I'm really being honest, of course. And who had speed at the track, and that's a big deal to me. So I'll talk about that in a second. But before I do that, let me talk about Daniel Jacobson. Daniel Jacobson, Purdue's next great center. Who started for one game officially last year? Was it one or two games? I don't remember. He fractured his lower leg in a game where it looked like he got kicked in the shin. He did get kicked in the shin, but really bothered a lot of Purdue fans because you're like, man, the guy's so thin, and we're all worried about how he's going to be. And turns out that was it for the season. Because of that, Purdue's season took an unusual turn where Painter had to try to hide the fact that Purdue didn't have a bunch of size. Of course, Daniel Burgess is in there, but Daniel Burgess. Burgess is a guy that probably wasn't quite ready to play the minutes that he had to play last year. It was a tough season for Purdue defensively because I had to hide TKR's fouls, and Jacobson's ability to alter shots at the rim were something that I think Painter thought this could go pretty well. And that's why he earned the starting spot over Berg so early last year, just to refresh your memory. Well, he's still really good at basketball. And much of the Big Ten, I think, has discounted Jacobson as they've looked at Purdue's acquisition of Oscar Clough. And Clough is going to be great. Don't get me wrong. He's a different type of guy than Jacobson because of his bulk, his experience, his style of play. But Jacobson is still a guy that has the eye of many coaches in America. I hope not too many. I hope they've kind of forgot what Matt Painter and Brandon Brantley and company can do with big men. And so that's why I say, let's keep it a secret, Team USA. Let's not talk about Daniel Jacobson. He does have the tryout, I think, coming next week. That's how it works. The U19 team this time. If you look in the recent history of how Purdue's done with Team USA players, guys that have been asked and successfully made the team, they've been pretty successful. Those guys have done well for Purdue, and that's one of those I don't know if it's an indicator that Purdue's going to have a special season, but generally those guys, when they come off of playing for Team USA, look pretty damn good in the gold and black. And so I obviously want Jacobson to be out there, do big things again. He was awesome on the U18 team. If you didn't follow him, showed me before I got to see him play in gold and black how well he moved baseline to baseline, how good his hands are, how good his feet are for a guy of 7'4", and who is so lanky, but he's so different than Zach Edey because of his ability to kind of almost tiptoe around, his ability to get end to end, his ability to move very quickly and get to his spot fast. He doesn't do it like Edey, and then he comes and engages somebody starting at the free throw line, starts doing his work that way. But also he can pop out and hit the three. I think he'll be a great addition to Team USA. Hope he gets there, but kind of want him to keep a lid on it just for a little bit longer as Purdue gets ready for next season. So that's first point. Second thing I want to talk about is IndyCar. I said I was going to do this summer, talk about things off of the Purdue path. But the thing I wanted to talk about specifically is Team Penske cheating and the history of it. Is it a NASCAR phrase where they say if you're not cheating, you're not trying? And I think Team Penske has espoused that idea, especially the last couple of years. If you don't remember back in 2024, Tim Cindric and a couple engineers and I think it was three guys, Cindric, a team engineer, and a strategist were all suspended for the month of May. That was a big deal to Penske. Didn't hurt Newgarden because he backed up his 23 win by winning the 24 Indy 500. So now you've got 23 and 24. Newgarden's coming in for his third, and Team Penske does it again. This time they pretty much it wasn't caulk. It was a lot more hardy than caulk, but they closed the seam on the attenuator to the wing. It's a safety feature that allows some impact to be absorbed if a car backs into a wall. Penske was trying to gain an edge. The really interesting thing, if you haven't been keeping up on this, is Newgarden's car from last year has the same breaking of the rules on that chassis. And so the question is, did they do it last year to the 500? Because that car that Newgarden won the 500 in, it wasn't just handed over to the museum right after he won. It raced more races in the IndyCar circuit. So was it changed later because they saw, hey, wait, this is an aerodynamic win here because that little bit of drag on the tail means a big difference. Have they been doing it on all three cars the past 2 years? We really don't know. The really interesting thing is there are a lot of IndyCar fans that said those four drivers who were firing, trying to get those three spots in the last row should never had to fight that hard because those two Penske cars specifically, the one failed tech, Newgarden's failed tech, and then they pulled Will Powers out of line because it had the same violation of rules, but they pulled it out of line. So both those cars immediately were saying, okay, you can't qualify. And they put them in number 11 and 12 in the lineup for qualifying. After further digging at the rules, looking at what had happened, IndyCar moved them all the way back to 32 and 33 in the field. The problem was the damage had kind of been done because I can't remember, the kid from Kentucky, he didn't qualify. The one who had the Danny Sullivan throwback livery. I know I'm speaking in the weeds for some of you guys who aren't IndyCar fans, but it matters because the bump day isn't like it used to be when I was growing up where there were 40 cars trying to get 33 spots. It was just 34 cars looking for 33 spots. He shouldn't have had to not qualify. The Penske cars should have been kicked all the way back and had to requalify, in my opinion, without that advantage, whatever it is, just to see if it mattered. Instead, they both got in the field, but that's a pretty stiff punishment. That, along with $100,000 in fines, and I think 2 suspensions of strategists on Team Penske. Why does it matter? Well, it matters because now all of a sudden the Team Penske looks like the New England Patriots to many just casual race fans. They say, these guys are cheaters, and every win has an asterisk by it. And then you start questioning the honor among thieves, if you will, on these IndyCar crew chiefs and strategists. How much cheating has been going on? How much cheating with Team Penske has been going on for a long time and has never been caught? They're trying to make sure that everybody understands there's no favoritism here happening for Team Penske, because this is a stiff penalty. But at the same time, I think they should have been sent to the back right away and had to requalify. If you remember, if you care about IndyCar racing, if you care about the $500, if you remember the ending of the 23 race, I always questioned that. I think I talked about it on a QuickCast here, that I think Newgarden didn't deserve a shot. They almost they gave an advantage, I thought, to Newgarden in giving more of a race. I think it was a 2-lap shootout at the end of the race, if I remember correctly. So now you have the 23 and the 24 wins, both with an asterisk next to them. Don't get me wrong. I think Joseph Newgarden's the most talented race car driver, maybe in the sport. Obviously, Purdue and Award have been up there. I think Dixon is an incredible driver. He's kind of the steady hand of IndyCar. But this is a black eye on the sport, no doubt about it, especially in a season where they've had problems having competitive racing. Purdue has been dominant, but it's not a good thing for IndyCar to have this happen. But I like the fact that Penske is paying a bit of a price, and not only immediately in race qualifying, but also in the long run with their reputation. I think that's a good thing. As a guy, Rick Mears is my favorite driver ever, next to Mario Andretti. Those two are 1-2 or 1A, 1B for me. So Mears, most of his money, most of his fame was made driving for Penske, undoubtedly. But at the same time, I never liked Team Penske. This one is it's bothersome for the sport, but it's the right thing to do. They deserve to have the book thrown on them. That's about all I've got to talk about. I'll look at you guys, see what you guys have to say. Chris Harder is here. Happy Wednesday to you, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Ted Berkey is also here. Good morning. Looking and sounding good. I know I sound horrible, and thank you. You're an excellent liar. My voice always sounds bad. This time of year, it sounds especially bad to me, because of the allergies. I got on the phone yesterday on a business call, and I was like, man, I am unintelligible almost. My voice was kind of going up and down like it did earlier. Not a lot of fun to deal with, but many of you guys can relate. So nothing deserves pity. Motor City Boiler says, good morning, B-Dowd. How are you? Greg McManus says, hello. Ted, you might even say handsome. Yeah, some would say looking handsome. And those people, like myself, are need glasses. So thank you, though. Jarvizda says, hope that you are well this Wednesday morning. I'm doing great. I don't know if you guys have traveled. You can even do it in the States. If you travel out to California, jet lag hits you funny. I made a analogy with my wife, which I had never thought of. Jet lag is like grieving. You don't know when it's going to hit you, and you don't know how it's going to hit you. And with me, what jet lag's done is it made me I go to bed early right now, which is really, really odd. I am usually a 2 a.m. type guy, and midnight to 2 is the typical bedtime for me. Right now, I'm like falling asleep sitting at 10 o'clock. So I've been asleep every night by 10:30 last couple nights, which is maybe 10:45. Pretty weird for me. And then, of course, waking up at 5 a.m. Awesome. So let's see. Craig Manis says, ooh, tell the class about Normandy. Normandy, let me just get back to this. So there are some things that you need to see to believe. I'm somebody who back when the History Channel had history on it, I loved watching shows about Normandy, about D-Day, about the invasion. But the scope of Normandy is something that, like I said, it's an amazing thing to see in person. 47 miles of beach and cliffs, 150,000 Allied troops came together to do what they did, and so many men, so many futures were lost that day, so many lives, so much potential lost, but they did it for you and I. And that's the thing. You look at what they did. Jay Money said they literally saved the world. It's not overspeaking. This happened a lot last week, where I would get emotional at times because of what I saw and what I heard. Both of my grandfathers were involved in the invasion of Normandy. They were above the site. One of them was a navigator in bombers who pulled gliders to height and then let them go, and then the gliders would either drop in and take men in, or take officers in, or take equipment in. And his glider, I don't know how many people were on it. I think there were 20 on it, and he was the only one who survived the crash landing. And then he had 3 weeks to fight his way through France to try to connect with friendlies. They did it at night. They did it at times when covertly, because they were very much outgunned. But that family connection to Normandy always got me. Having 2 grandfathers that were braver than me always got me. Still gets me. But then the shows and movies like Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, they make it a lot more real. And then when you're there and you see the equipment, and I went to a church that was 1.5 miles from Omaha Beach, maybe Utah Beach. There's still blood stains on the pews where an American and a German medic, along with 2 French nurses who lived in this small town, took care of 80 German and American troops who had been wounded during the invasion. That one got me because it was so real. The fact that the blood stain was still there. They replaced all the stained glass in this church with references to the U.S. airborne troops that dropped in, the 101st and the 82nd Airborne. And then there are like 3 other churches that I had visited that had an important part during the invasion that I didn't know about. And those little details really mattered to me. Incredible trip. The scope, one thing that I took away, because I'd seen those concrete bunkers and fortifications on History Channel. They are massive. The amount of concrete that was dumped into these things to create these fortifications were nuts. And the size of them, number one, they were huge structures, but inside they were tight. And they were hunkered down pretty good. And then I also learned about how they tried to rush to build more, and how the guns were far away on that morning in 1944. So lots of fortunate things happened for the Allies, and lots of unfortunate things happened for the Allies. I got to visit the cemetery of the U.S. I also visited the German cemetery. 21,000 Germans were killed. We kind of forget about that. Those are human beings. Super sad, and not all of them were true believers in what was being fought for on the other side. That was pretty powerful to me. I had never thought about visiting the German cemetery, but our tour guide said you should probably see it. And it's very different how it's done, of course. Very subdued, dark colored headstones. And on the U.S. side, of course, the white marble headstone that everybody knows. It's just incredible to see that in person. If you've been to San Diego, you've seen a similar cemetery. If you've been to Arlington, you've seen a similar cemetery. But the fact that that's just one battle, and the deaths around that battle, that makes it so powerful for me. Ted Berge said history lesson with Boiler Dad. Yeah, it got a little deeper there. Steve Azano says, it's been too long. Glad you had a good trip. Amazing trip. And Nathan A, of course, says, ooh la la. Oui. I took French in high school and college, and I was the lone. My dad said he took French too. It'd been a little bit longer for him. Two older gentlemen and I trekking across France, me trying to feel blindly through the French language as I met with different people on the street. Google Translate is a godsend and a miracle, but also my French is atrocious. I always say I have a hard enough time speaking English, but speaking French, I always respect the people out there that can flip on. They have 3-5 languages. Incredible. And they were. The French reputation of poor hospitality and rudeness is overstated, at least at this point. My wife spent some time in France during high school. She spent 2 months there in a study abroad type program. She said her experience was different. They were pretty rude then. The hospitality in France is absolutely incredible. The way the hotel staffs and restaurant staffs treat you is pretty darn good, as long as you're not a boob to them. As long as you attempt to speak some French. And I attempted and I failed, and they were pretty funny the way they corrected me nicely, actually, over and over. So hats off to the French. I mean that. And those who know me, Jay Money's on here, or he was a minute ago. They know my my first thought on French culture, but they were great hosts all over from the three main stops we had, all great. So it didn't matter if you're. Another thing, Normandy is like an American embassy of a city. Pardon me. I was in Bayeux, Normandy, which Normandy is like a state. But Bayeux, I don't know how to pronounce anything. See, this is what I'm talking about French. It's an incredible place, though, because you go there, American flags are flying everywhere. Everybody speaks English. When you walk down the street, you're talking to Americans. We ran into 10 Purdue alums in Bayeux alone. Incredible. If you've experienced it, I thought this is one place in the world I could actually live here. I could move to France in a second and live in that town. Like, fell in love with the place. Food's as good as you think, too. Food's awesome there. So they have this place called McDonald's. I highly suggest it if you see it. Todd Singer says, just tuning in a bit late. Happy to be here. Glad you're here, Todd. And by the way, Todd, again, publicly, thanks for the bottle. I've been nursing that thing along. It's delicious. You did. I really appreciate it. Need to be in verse says, popping into a meeting. Just wanted to say hey to our guy B Dowd and the BS crowd. I'll catch up on tape on my drive home. Go Boilermakers. And when you're on tape, I hope you're using Memorex, because it's the greatest of all cassette tapes when you're in your car. The fact that you say tape endears you to me, because we're clearly from the same proximity and time frame. But I love hearing people say tape. Jay Money always makes fun of me because I'll say things like tape. So good job on that. Brad Prather says, don't forget to hit that like button. It does matter for our enjoyment of Purdue content. Yeah, I'd love to tell you that the like button has somehow comes back to, we have not monetized this feed. That's how good of businessmen we are. Just a year and a half ago, we were sub 1,000 subscribers. Now we're past 2,000. Slowly, surely, organically, we get our the loyalists like you guys here. We really appreciate it. But please do like it. We appreciate it. And it does help your feed, telling you when I'm going to go live or when I go live. Also, subscribing is a big deal. My dad tells me it doesn't help him very much, but sorry, Dad. It's maybe user error. J Money, Jack-O-Lantern22 says, are you going to cover NASCAR next week or the week after? Yeah, it'll probably be the week after in perpetuity. We'll never get there. We'll just keep looking on to NASCAR because I can't stand watching NASCAR. NASCAR and F1 have a similar allure for me, which is not much allure. For some reason, being local and going to IndyCar events, I'm a fan of IndyCar. I still want to go to Alabama very much. I want to go see a race in Alabama. There's another course I really want to go to, but generally it's like I've been to the Grand Prix like, I don't know, 7, 8 times. Not the best race. And I always sit up high, going into one, going out of one, where I can see like 4 turns right there. And it's still a tough product. But coming out of yellow, that's a pretty fun thing. That's a pretty fun event. I think this year they had 1 yellow. I think that's right in the Grand Prix. So, yeah, different reasons I dislike NASCAR and F1. And good on you if you like all sorts of auto racing. I just don't. So just full admission. But thank you for bringing that up, Jay. Isaac Waldrop says the reason they didn't have to was they already qualified the day before and had locked themselves into the race. So I think you can argue this point. Clearly, they don't think that because they pushed in the back of the field. So he's referencing the Penske cars being moved to the back of the field. So they had qualified provisionally, right? That's the key word, provisionally. It wasn't a full qualification. In my opinion, I think this is all gimmicky crap. The Fast 12, Fast 6, whatever you want to call it. When, as they, it's really a knockout system. I don't like it. I'm sure there are race fans that love it. But maybe I'm just old fashioned. I miss it when the month of May was dedicated to the 500 only. I know it was expensive, but if you don't think the Indy 500 is the crown jewel of that series, you're not paying much attention. The cars should stay designed for the Indy 500. The problem they've got, of course, is you'll see results like we've seen recently this year where not a lot of racing, just a lot of single file running, which is awful. And the way this hybrid power plant has changed the feel of the cars. You listen to guys like Ryan Hunter Ray talk about, he's like, I can't feel the car. It's completely numb. The tail end's numb. Who hasn't had a numb tail end at times, especially at a cold Purdue football game? But there's a problem with the way the cars are balanced and weighted right now. It's not a good thing. I referenced this 2 weeks ago, reference it again. They've got some issues they got to get straight with this hybrid power plant and the weight specifically. Anyway, Jarvizda says, now handicap the Coca-Cola 600. Yeah, so this is, I can't. And I don't like Kyle Larson. I love it when guys want to come and race at Indy because I think Indy is the greatest race in the world. I love seeing F1 guys come do it. I'd love to see Hamilton come from F1 because he's talked so much shit about IndyCar, but I don't think he's brave enough. At least Larson is I think he's a guy that wants to go fast and wants to get in any machine and show what he can do in that machine. No doubt about that with Larson. But I think that guy is arrogant as hell. Among arrogant athletes, somehow Kyle Larson stands out to me as being arrogant. And whenever I see an athlete looking arrogant around other arrogant athletes, it gets my attention. So I hope he does not compete near the top. Just my opinion. I got in a discussion with somebody, I can't remember who it was on Twitter, very upset with me for thinking that way, but that's okay. It'd be neat to see Larson do what a lot of guys have done when they come to Indy and have a hard time competing and then go win the Coca-Cola 600, because then that speaks to the fact that it's pretty damn hard to win Indy. I think IndyCar right now has the best top to bottom list of drivers in all of racing. I think F1 might have the best drivers in the world at the top of their series. I mean, they're incredible. The IndyCar drivers at the top are incredible, but the fact top to bottom, there's no series like IndyCar where you just have so many guys that are talented. NASCAR's got good race car drivers, no doubt about it. But as Jay talks, because he likes to drive pickups and yell yeehaw, running into each other is takes a little bit less skill than trying to avoid contact. And I think NASCAR can punish drivers with the culture, meaning if you're not willing to help somebody out and help them get a tow or whatever, you can really ruin somebody's race. And we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen with different drivers as they've tried NASCAR racing. There's a bit of a different culture there. It's really not that way in F1 or IndyCar. IMSA's great racing, by the way. That's another type of racing I like to watch, and I don't watch it enough. And I wish I could tell you right now who's really good at it, but I just like watching IMSA racing. It seems like it's a nice in between NASCAR and IndyCar. I watched a guy on YouTube talk about, he was an F1 fan, he was from Europe, and I think he was from Sweden. And he talked about, he thought that IndyCar was a combination of F1 and NASCAR. It's kind of the middle of that. And I'd argue that IMSA is the middle between IndyCar and NASCAR. So anyway, let's see. Nathan A says, Monsieur Dowd, Le Beau. Yes, so the handsome hour. Thank you, Nathan. That's the type of French that I can understand. Conversational French, as my grade would tell you at Purdue, I took conversational French and it was a absolute struggle. I had that class with Angela Buckman, so a little name dropping there. She sat in front of me. She was incredible looking then, of course, still pretty, but that was distracting. Number one, didn't change the fact that my grade was awful. Let's see. Greg Manis says 47 miles. If you drive I-80 that distance from Omaha to Lincoln. Wow. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that big of an area of the beaches and cliffs of Normandy. It's an incredible distance. And if you try to go see every section of beach and cliff, of shoreline, I guess is a better word, at Normandy, you will be there for like 5 weeks trying to see all the details and all the history there. We stuck with Omaha and Utah. So, that's funny. Greg, explain it to me in Nebraska terms. Yeah. See, Greg's a Hoosier. But yes, he is a Nebraskan now. He is a Cornhusker by proxy. Fairweather Greg McManus. That's funny. So he continues. Greg says, from my FIL's report, the Parisian hospitality versus the rest of the country. I don't know what you just said there, because this happens. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I'm embarrassing myself. So I'm sure there's a good point there, Greg. I apologize. Ted Berkey says, Paris can be rude. The rest of France can be nice. Yes, I saw a little bit of the rudeness of Paris, but I think here's my thesis is that any city you go to, it's big, right? They're in a hurry. So naturally they're going to be, there's going to be some putting your elbows out to create your own space. And there's going to be people saying, who the hell are you? You don't belong here. You're not from here. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, all of them have a version of that. Big cities have a version of that. And I do agree that if you get a little out in the country, get away from Paris, it was better. But I was extremely happily surprised at the way the Parisians treated 3 ugly Americans as we went through the city. Typovich 1 says, please not another Penske win, please. Well, it's going to be hard now. I was at the track with my dad on Monday, yesterday. Is that yesterday? No, 2 days ago. There we go. Warped. And it was incredible watching McLaughlin try to get to speed. That's another guy I really like, just his personality. I like Scott McLaughlin. But he would run 1 or 2 laps, come in, make adjustments, 1 or 2 laps, come in, make adjustments. I think his fastest lap on the day was the 31st or 30th fastest. For all the people that went, all 33 drivers got out and practiced on Monday, and he doesn't have the speed. He's starting 12th, and yeah, interesting. That wreck of his was just incredible, and I think that's another one of those where the tail end, the weight in the tail end from the hybrid power plant was to blame. Both his and Herta's accidents specifically look like that to me. And I think they'd tell you that. Brian T says, hello from Tampa Bay. Excellent. Glad you're here listening. And Greg McManus says, father-in-law. Okay, so let me see what he said here. I'm going to try it. From my father-in-law's report, thank you, sir. There's a Parisian hospitality versus the rest of the country. There's Parisian hospitality versus the rest. So I think what you're saying there, Greg, you can tell me, is Parisian hospitality is above the rest of the country. And so I would argue, though, Normandy hospitality was incredible. We stayed at a place called the Golden Lion. It's Lion d'Or, if you want to speak French like me, who's fluent in French, clearly. That place, that staff was awesome. Incredible. And then in France, I can't remember, probably can't pronounce the hotel I stayed in there. Oh, it was, if you've been there, it was on Rue de Litre. And I think it was Hotel de Litre. And their staff was awesome as well. I mean, incredible. They had one surly dude who was exactly what you'd think of a Frenchman would be towards an American. He got really pissy with me one time, and that reminded me of Ferris Bueller's Day Off when I said, we're going to get snotty. And I kind of kept pushing on the issue because he was a jerk. So it's the only jerk I met up with in France. And I appreciate it. We went to a lot of different places to eat, talked to a lot of people in hospitality, talked to people on the streets. They really don't care if you get to where, I will say that. When you ask for directions in Paris, they really just want to end that interaction. And I was using Google Maps, and with the buildings that create a canyon there, Google Maps doesn't work very well, especially if you're walking slowly. I figured out how to beat that later in the week, but yeah, that's me being a moron, not their fault. Greg Mayer says, Paris is more rude, the smoke in your face stereotype. Yeah. Not as many people smoke there as I thought used to. I've worked with French people. I've worked with German teams, a lot of smokers, Italians, a lot of smokers. But yeah, there were smokers, but not as many as I kind of hoped. Because whenever I do my French impersonation, I'm always smoking a cigarette. Always. So yeah, thank you, Greg. Nathan A says, fun fact, I had to take a French class 3 times to graduate. Well, you and I could talk, Nate. we could compare notes, and I can tell you how mine ended. I'm not going to do it right here. Maybe I've told it before, but in something like B. Dowd begging for a grade. I can tell you that much in English, because I could not keep up in conversational French. Lots of vaping, says Jarvizda. Maybe. No smell of marijuana in France. That's a big +1 over America. I cannot stand the smell of marijuana. So I know you guys who are proponents are going to tell me it's all natural. I don't care what you're breathing in that's not oxygen. You're not supposed to be breathing it in. I'm sure there's some smart people like Anish that can tell me exactly why you shouldn't breathe in things that aren't oxygen, whether it's vape, marijuana smoke, tobacco smoke, whatever. I do like smoking a cigar. I don't inhale because I don't know how to. I look like a goofball if I do it. We have had BS summits where we've had cigars together, and let's see. I think we got one of the BS team that will inhale a cigar. One of us. I'm not going to throw him under the bus here, but in some ways that's pretty macho. Okay, Jarvis says pot gummies. Yeah, that's the way you get around that smell. The gummies, edibles, pot chocolate candy bar, right? That's another thing you can have. So not in Indiana though. So that's about it. We're going to end on a high note. We're going to end on talk of marijuana. And let's see, would we call that? Nope, I wouldn't call that a QuickCast. 36 minutes is not a QuickCast. Dowd, damn it. But thank you to you guys for extending the conversation today. Thank you to those who were pretty much just dealing with the IndyCar talk. But also, you're welcome to those who are thankful that it's IndyCar talk. And that's the problem you've got when you have a reputation for talking about certain things. Here's what I hope that was the longest gap between QuickCast podcasts, whatever you want to call it, this summer. That's what I'm shooting for, to get to you guys at least weekly. And hopefully they give me a reason to talk. Gene Katie's birthday is today or yesterday. That's something to talk about. That's a happy thing. It's great. Something to really celebrate. Happy birthday, Coach. Very, very, that's cool. And, we need to do what we can to make sure Coach Katie sees this national title in Indy. So gotta make that happen, Coach Paint. That's about it for you. God bless you. Hammer down. We'll talk soon. See ya.